Stagflation is far worse than inflation alone. I'm going to go over the difference between stagflation and just regular inflation and why the Fed has pretty much used all of its tools available to them. And it's a very scary scenario because my thesis is I think we're in stagflation right now. I confirmed this when I talked to my buddy Greg Foss in the last podcast we did. That episode is posted on the channel if you want to watch that after this. But I said, hey, do you think we're in stagflation? He goes, I think we're in it right now. Or I think I had even worded it, do you think stagflation is coming? And he actually said, I think we're there right now, which is very scary to hear a guy that's so well informed and so well versed say something like that, because I tend to agree. Now, what is the difference between just regular inflation and stagflation? When you have inflation, basically you have a high inflation, and then sometimes because of the high inflation, that will actually lower the unemployment, which is what the Fed tries to do. They'll increase inflation, and hopefully if unemployment is out of line, it lowers unemployment. It's a tool in their tool chest, as ridiculous as it sounds. It's the Keynesian economics guys out there, the Milton models of needing 2% inflation. I think it's ridiculous. I'm more into Austrian economics, but they believe this. You have high inflation, low unemployment, right? Now, stagflation is different. Stagflation is something that's very, very scary. We've only dealt with this in the 70s and the 80s. I'm making the argument that I think stagflation is happening right now. Now, what is stagflation? Stagflation is when you have high inflation, but then you also have high unemployment at the same time. So that is a very, very scary scenario because you have a stagnant economy. You have a lack of demand from employers to bring in people to employ people. And then at the same time, you have extremely high inflation and high costs of goods out there. Now, are we seeing that? I would argue absolutely. So we were told inflation was transitory, right? Just to put it into perspective, inflation January 2021 was at 1.4%. That's their CPI figure, the Consumer Price Index figure. It's what we're told. It doesn't tell the whole story, in my personal opinion. I think it is a very skewed data report, but they told us 1.4% the beginning of January 2021. Now, after they said transitory, month by month, their annual projection changed. Their annual projection changed month by month. So now we're at 6.2% CPI inflation, almost 5% more than at the beginning of the year. That is astronomical how big of a change that actually is. And do you buy when they say, oh, this is just transitory? Because they've been saying it for a while now. And since they've been saying it, it just keeps going up and up and up and up and up. So inflation is obviously there. I would argue that it's much higher than 6.2% because the real things that they're not even including, like energy and specific, like our meats and energy, all these different things that we're actually consuming, are like, it doesn't really give the whole picture. And you look into the details on the CPI data, and there's a lot left out there, and a lot of very, very intelligent economics professors out there and people that study this field would say the same, that it could be much higher than 10%, maybe 15% right now. And we're seeing that, obviously. I mean, when you go to the gas pump, is your gas up only 5%? No, I think my gas is almost doubled. So yeah, it's going up a lot. So there's different things that aren't included in the CPI figure. But anyway, inflation, I believe, is out of control and going to continue to grow and grow and grow. Now, to have stagflation, you need an economy that is also slowing as well, and there's a lack of demand for goods out there. So a high unemployment and a continuing high unemployment. Well, what's happening right now? People are pretty much incentivized to stay unemployed. They'd rather just be on unemployment than have to go to work. Now, if they even do go to work, here's an interesting scenario that nobody's talking about, and I hope this video is very valuable to you, and I hope you share it with some friends because I really want to get this information out there to warn people. And I hope that, and if you think that I'm crazy, you think if I'm not acting appropriate here, like that it's as big of a deal as I think it is, then put it in a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Do you think we're going towards stagflation? Maybe I'll even do a poll here on YouTube. But please do make your voice heard and put a comment down below on what you think of this scenario here, whether you think I'm right or wrong on this. But this is one factor that none of these economists are putting into the projection, is the fact that because of the shutdown, we basically had companies going to Zoom calls. And I've heard it from so many friends of mine who are CEOs and people running companies. They said, yeah, we figured out that we could mitigate all of these tasks, and we don't really even want people to come back. And I'm thinking to myself, I was talking to my buddy about this, and I'm going, really? Like, yeah, the Zoom calls are so efficient, and we're going overseas for a lot of these jobs that we needed, and they're helping us in ways that we didn't even know we could use the internet like this because of us being forced to do it. Now we're utilizing this deflationary technology. Now, because the technology is so advanced today, it's a factor that wasn't in the 70s and the 80s and the last time we hit stagflation. Now we have these iPhones, we have these supercomputers in our pockets, we have Zoom where we can do all these meetings. Look at all these college classes are doing their Zoom classes now. And now they're still charging a ridiculous amount for college. So college is a scam in my opinion. Anyway, but back to this. I would argue because of that the technology being deflationary, that is going to have a serious impact on jobs. So that is something that is not being looked at that I think absolutely pushes us into this stagflation environment. Now, what's so wild here, and even more proof of us being in stagflation, is the dollar index going up. Because in stagflation, the currencies should crash, or the dollar should crash if it's our specific economy. But it's going up right now. Right after they said we have high inflation, the dollar index goes up. Why is that? Now, my thesis on this is I think that people are scared and they're selling their bonds. Like, why would you even own a bond? If you own a bond, you're pretty much saying, hey, I want my ice cube to melt, just at a little bit lower of a rate, like a tiny bit lower of a rate, but it's still inevitably going to melt. Like, why would you ever want a bond? Is there a bond out there that actually makes sense? No. So people are selling their bonds, they're probably selling their equities, and they're getting a cash position together because they're scared of what's happening next. So although we think at first, well, wait a minute, high inflation should mean the dollar goes down in the basket of fiat currencies because our inflation is so high. Now, granted, it's the cleanest shirt in the dirty hamper, the dollar, but still, you have a high inflation rate they just came out with. Why is the dollar index going up? I think that is the key indicator here, is the fear. The fear is going on right now where people are going, I don't know what to do, but I want to have my hot potato money ready. I want to have some powder dry ready to do something with if something does hit the fan. Because what happened in 2007? Everything collapsed. And then if you had powder dry, you were in a very good position. Dollars can be very powerful if you have them if you have the hot potato at the right moment before it burns you. So things like that are going on. But I actually think this plays out a little different. Similar to that, but I also think that this is something like we've never seen before, because the Fed has used up its entire tool chest. The Fed's tool chest is to lower the interest rates. Interest rates are at zero right now. They can't get any lower. Are they going to do negative interest rates? Maybe. Maybe they'll just beg the banks to take money from them. They're already giving it to them at 0%. And so all of this combined scares me, because you have a deflation in the workforce and an inflation in the currency. I'll repeat, you have a deflation in the workforce due to technology and due to the current environment that we're in, and an inflation in the currency. So, for example, how many of us are not eating out as much? How many of us are just going on a quick little app and getting food delivered? These things are deflationary. These things cost jobs. And I don't think that that's really hit the market yet. I don't think people really understand it just yet. And we're going to feel this for the coming years. But I think it's actually coming a lot faster than I even expected. But again, they have no more tools left. Usually with the Fed, they will start printing more money, and they'll get inflation to go up, and then that lowers the unemployment rate. But right now we're going to see high unemployment due to this specific situation that we're in. I think it would have already happened without all of the craziness that's happened in the past 2 years. But right now we have a situation where it's already happened. It was already going to happen, rather, and now this just expedited it. And now we're forced to using Zoom, even though we probably already were going in that direction. Now it's pushed it way more rapid. So Are we in a stagflation environment? In my personal opinion, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy on YouTube, but I try to really help the average individual out there because I know the average individual is living paycheck to paycheck. And I know that this is going to really, really hurt the average citizen out there. So I really want to get this information out. What happens next, I guess, should be what goes on. So if I've come to the conclusion that stagflation is here, that inflation is at we're told 6.2%, probably a lot higher than that, and we have a stagnant amount of jobs that are going to be available, probably going to be very, very high unemployment due to technology. That is it's like almost it is the exact definition of stagflation. Now, we might be told that the unemployment rate isn't where it really is. All of these data figures that we're told are very skewed in my opinion, rather. And you got to really get past the smoke and mirrors here. So I'm going to go over some charts over here actually and show you what I'm talking about. So here's the dollar index. And what's crazy is, they recently announced that the inflation rate is a lot higher than expected, came in at 6.2%, wildly higher than expectations. And somehow the dollar index goes from 93 and change to 96, almost 97 on the dollar index. Now, granted, it's the cleanest shirt in the dirty hamper of fiat currencies, like we're told. But still, to see an effect where you give bad information and then you see it jumping like that is wild. And so now let's go look at Bitcoin's price. So what happens when the dollar index goes up, assets go down because the dollar can buy more asset. But what we should be seeing is the dollar going down in a stagflation world. The currency goes down and the costs of goods go up. So right now, let's look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin at the beginning of November in the same time period, it fell from the 60s down to where it is now, 57 and change. Then you also look at silver, and you see that silver in the same time period fell down from, I think it was around 24, and now it's back down to around 23, 24. But we saw, because of the inflation data, we saw it go up in the short term, but then it pulls down as the dollar continued to climb like that. In the beginning, it made metals go up because it was bad data. But now, since the dollar keeps going up and up and up, when the dollar index goes up, asset prices go down. And so we saw that exact pattern here with silver, up and then down. Now, it didn't actually, crash. It just kind of flatlined. And same thing with Bitcoin in a way, just kind of flatlined. And then also with gold, up and then down. And this is due to an artificial price rise in the dollar. Now, why do I think this is artificial on this price here? On the DXY going up, rather. I think it's artificial because people are just scared right now and they've been selling things and getting a cash position together. I think it's a good idea personally to have, 10, 20% powder dry right now, which means liquid dollars. Not that I believe in holding liquid dollars, just that if you know how to play hot potato and you have a plan of action with this money, then it's a great thing to have at the right time. But I think it's very telling that metals are either staying flat or slightly down, and the same thing as Bitcoin. Bitcoin has actually been wildly up over the last year, but I think that they start detaching soon. And I think in a stagflation environment, what we see is the dollar index continue to steadily climb until it's just too late, and then it starts crumbling down with the entire basket of fiat currencies. That's the one thing people overlook. They always say, well, the dollar will always be the strongest. No, I think all of them are fiat currencies. All of them are back to nothing. The entire basket should go down. And I think that is what we will see. We'll see metal skyrocket. We'll see Bitcoin skyrocket. That's what I think happens. I think all assets will skyrocket in price in this scenario here. So it really is kind of it's the worst thing ever to call this a perfect storm because it's terrible. This is going to really, really, really be rough, in my opinion, because we haven't really had a situation of stagflation since, I think it was like the late 80s was the last time. But the Fed has used up all their tools. Inflation is out of control. They've printed more than, I think, around 40% of the dollar supply in the last year and a half. So if we had this much, they added 40% more dollars into circulation. And when they say print, they just digitally boop it in. And I see no stop for them. They say they're going to taper. They can't taper. There's no way out for the Fed. They've put themselves back into this corner, and I don't see them finding any way out of this. And that's why I want to make these videos, to warn people that I think stagflation is the worst possible thing that can happen to an economy. And we're seeing that. And when it's what we're seeing temporarily with the DXY, with the dollar index going up, is I think people are being a lot more conservative with what they're buying. You know, they might, things they would have just splurged on in the past, they might want to just sit on a dollar position, make sure they have money to pay rent. You know, they want to make sure they have money to pay for their groceries. Their groceries are a lot more expensive than they expected. Their gas is a lot more expensive. So people are sitting in a dollar position because they're worried right now. That's why we're seeing the dollar index go up, in my opinion. I don't think that whole story that we're told of it being the best of the worst fiat currencies. It's like, how long are we going to believe that narrative? Oh, well, the dollar is the best of the worst. They're all the worst. They're all dirty fiat currencies, but it's the best of the worst. Like, how? They're all dirty. When do we actually clean the laundry and we actually have a real sound money again? When does that happen? Could Bitcoin be that? Possibly. You know, and the funny thing is, if Bitcoin succeeds, I see that being huge for specifically industrial precious metals, because they're so falsely suppressed that under a new standard, in a way, I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole, but what am I doing personally to protect myself? I'm putting together about a 10-20% position in dollars right now, which goes against everything I believe in. Like, I do not like having dollars in the account, and I'm getting into a position of dollars just to be prepared for the unexpected, and if there's going to be opportunity there. Now, could there be an opportunity where I feel like silver is about as low as it can possibly get, and I think Bitcoin's about there too, but it's good to have powder dry in case of it going even lower. I think that the dollar index can only steadily climb for so long before stagflation really hits. And look up what the definition of stagflation is. In a stagflation environment, the effect on the economy is the currency crumbles in value. If the currency crumbles in value, Bitcoin would skyrocket, silver would skyrocket, even gold would go up quite a bit, I believe, in that environment. That's how I think this plays out. And so what am I doing? Small dollar position, 10 to 20%. And then I'm still in my same asset portfolio: Bitcoin, silver, platinum, palladium. These are the things that I'm holding. I wish I could be more into real estate right now, but I'm a little bit younger on the credit scale. If I had, my credit's getting better and better now because I'm working on it. But even if you have good credit, you have to be able to qualify for these loans. So if you can qualify, then you can get into real estate. But real estate even is a bit tricky right now. So right now, I'm just kind of sitting in what I consider sound money. You know, I want to be in sound money, sound assets, and hold a small dollar position and just wait for what's coming next. And then also be building my business in the same time period. So that's my personal plan, just if you want to know what I'm doing. But what are you doing? If you're watching this video, if you've heard me ramble about this and talk about, you know, doom and gloom, you know, I hate to be that guy just constantly putting out this scary information, but I think that it's inevitable. You know, what is the massive shock that the economy goes through is a huge tech advancement where it makes a lot of jobs, you know, worthless, that you don't need them anymore. Look at what Tesla's doing, for example. They have all these robots working their factories now, and it's only going to get further and further down that. And how many jobs are these robots taking away? How many jobs are these Zoom calls taking away because you don't need to bring a person in? How much more efficient are companies running because they figured this out because they were forced to? I think that is a huge factor that is wildly overlooked, and I wanted to bring it up and kind of ring the warning bell, so to speak. But what do you think about all of this? Put it in a comment down below. Do you think we're actually in stagflation? Do you think we're just, or it's just inflation and it's just transitory like we're told? Put it in a comment down below. I read every single comment. Maybe some people don't believe me when I say that, but if you look, I try to respond to every single comment. So if you post a comment down there, I will be looking at it. And not only will I be looking at it, but everybody else does too. I know the first thing that I do when I go on YouTube is go look at the comments, and then you can see if, you know, there's some good content there by just the comments. So there's a lot of learning that can be done. Make sure your voice is heard. I want to hear from you, because this is why I was so, I don't want to say I was thrown off when Greg Foss said this, but please do watch that podcast. Maybe I'll make a link to that podcast in the side over here at the end of this video. But for him to say we're already there, when I asked him, do you think stagflation is coming? He says we're already there. I mean, that was pretty wild for somebody like him to say that. Scary stuff. That's the video. That's everything I wanted to talk about. Sorry if I ramble a bit, but that's how I roll my videos. I don't like editing it. I just like shooting these in one take and putting them out there. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, would really, really love to have you as a subscriber. I'm trying to get to 25,000. I'm at 24 and change right now on the subscribers. So everyone that subscribes really helps this channel, and I would really appreciate if you did that. If you like the content, please do hit the like button because it spreads awareness and gets this information out. That's how the YouTube algorithm sees me, is if you like and if you subscribe. So I'd really appreciate if you did those things, and please do make your voice heard in a comment down below. I will see you at the next video. Signing out.